Peace, Hotep, Alafi and Assalamu alaikum. This is your sister, Dr. Maat, coming before you with another powerful discussion. Today I have with me student minister Carlos Muhammad. How are you doing, brother? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Peace and blessings to you, Doc, and all of your listening audience and your family and all who are with us in the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality.
Well, Minister Carlos, thank you so much for coming on. I know it was short notice. I think I called you and Captain Andrew Muhammad a few days ago and asked for you to come on. And so you came right on, and I do appreciate you coming on and spending some time with me and my listeners.
Hey, it's an honor. And let me say this for you, sis. I mean, unless it was just something that was unpreventable, know that from my heart to yours, when you call, I do my best to answer.
And you do, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Minister Carlos. And people don't know, but we go way back, Minister Carlos. The first time I saw you, and I share this story often when I talk about you. My uncle Mark, he brought me to Muhammad Mosque Temple number 6. And for the people who don't know where that's located, it's located right in Baltimore City, family, off of Liberty Heights and Garrison Boulevard. And so when I was a teenage girl, probably around 15, 16, 17-ish, my uncle took me to the mosque. And so I'm sitting in the mosque and I see this young minister, right? This young man, he's standing up and he's talking about the plight of Black Americans and how we should be operating as Black people. I respected your intelligence, your passion, your articulation, and and your commitment to it. And I mean that motivated me. I never saw anything like that in my life. And so and so ever since then, I've been coming to worship, off and on. I might see Minister Carlos, I'll come through and then you'll show me some love. You allow me to come on stage and talk to the family and vice versa. So we definitely have a history. We go back about almost 25 years, Minister Carlos. So we go way back. And so, Minister Carlos, I wanted you to come on because right now we're in a very challenging time. People are highly emotional. We saw what happened to our brother, George Floyd, in Minnesota. It was captured on video, and that video went viral on social media, and it caused the uproar around the country. People are protesting in Baltimore, Minnesota, Chicago, Atlanta. I saw people in Detroit, and not even just in the States. People have been protesting around the world, in the UK, in the UK and in Canada.
Russia.
France, absolutely. So I wanted to reach out to you just for some guidance, Minister Carlos, as you will, because when things like this happen, people always say, where's the Nation of Islam? What is the Nation of Islam doing? As soon as something happened, where's the nation? Where's the minister? So I just wanted to ask you first, what was the Nation of Islam's response to what happened with our brother, George Floyd? If you could share that with us, what was the response?
Sure. Well, we, the members of the Nation of Islam, under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who has been working among us for 60 plus years as a whole on behalf of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but 43 years in particular in rebuilding the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that the enemy attempted to write out of history. And just to think that we are just a few days away from celebrating 90 years of our establishment on July 4th, 1930. Our teacher and deliverer and savior, Master Fard Muhammad, who is the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, decided to begin things on the Independence Day of America by declaring our independence on the day that they were in their revelry over their independence. And so 90 years later, we're here. And because of the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who from day one, we have in today's language, we have the receipts, the tangible documentation, as well as his words, that he was, in fact, and is a champion of freedom, justice, and equality. and for the liberation of our people, coming in the tradition of the great worthy, such as Noble Drew Ali, such as the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and many others that we could just call the roll as we do when we pour our libation.
Yes.
See? So he was a continuation of an onward march towards those goals and reality. And so we make no distinction among the great worthies, even though the enemies without and the enemies within try to use that as a tool to keep those of us that may be traveling our different methodology towards the same eventual goal where it calls for our unity. So the traditions of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, and now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stem from the patriarchal method and way and manner of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So our response, in the sense, has been the ongoing response that we've been on for 90 years. We
Yes.
can't sit here and try to minimalize or just focus on Brother George Floyd in the sense. See, we're in the moment of him, but don't act as if all of a sudden, with his unfortunate murder
Right. That's right.
and modern day lynching, that all of a sudden now everybody has a revolutionary idea and concept, because we're just a few weeks from the revelation of Ahmaud Arbery that happened months ago. But had it not been for the modern technology and video, his would have just been swept under the rug and not exposed. We're looking at Breonna Taylor.
Come on.
But yeah, but we can go back to Sandra Bland. We can go back to Tamir Rice. And we're just talking about, Doc, I don't mean to take so long, but we're talking about just over the last 6 to 7 years, not to count 460 plus years of murder and torture. But guess what? The wise guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he said something to me in the aftermath of the Freddie Gray uprising. And we know that just a year before that, we had been dealing with Ferguson and the unfortunate murder of Mike Brown.
Yes.
He said to me, he said, brother, Baltimore is just the latest stop of a train that is traveling the country. He said, our people are tired and they just can't take it no more. He said, and all it takes is a spark.
Yes.
He said, Mike Brown was a spark.
Yes.
And that spark in Ferguson gave a little spark at that time, though it went on for weeks into months out there. Little uprisings came around the country and then it died out. Then when Freddie Gray came, it was an uprising here.
Yes.
But that spark didn't necessarily translate into fires out there, because it's all in the creators. It's all in God's time. So Brother Floyd's spark is a major spark that nobody saw coming, because we were already reeling once again over what just happened to Breonna Taylor.
Yes.
We were already numb and in pain over Brother Ahmaud.
Yes.
But that spark, that was fueling. But then what we saw on the tape from Minneapolis was a big spark that now we see is in full effect. So our response is what your response, not your particular, but it's what every concerned Black person, it's what every concerned human being is in terms of the tyranny and injustice that we've been suffering under the foot and trod of these people for over 400 years. So don't act as if where we are. Let me get straight to the chase. Where's the minister? Where God has him. And you may disagree with that, but I'm saying he's exactly where he's supposed to be. Where's the nation? Right where we're supposed to be. Obedient soldiers to a commander-in-chief that has been worthy and made worthy to follow his command. And if we are wise to follow it as his direct followers, then you, Black America, should be wise enough to follow it too, because you're looking at a man that has had to rebuild a 44-year work in the midst of the most tumultuous times. The crack epidemic is worse than the time of Dr. King and fighting for civil rights. When you're looking at the genocidal plot of this beast against us and the mass incarceration of our people since 1973, but in particular 1980, up until now, the minister has had to fight through all of that just to wake up and reawaken the consciousness of a black mass. So don't you make no judgment about where we are. The real question is, where have you been?
Thank you.
That's just my take on it.
I
You ain't got me you ain't got me fired up right out the gate. And can I say, Doc, because
yes,
I know you got to move on. Listen, this social media thing has given everybody, whether real or fake, a platform to talk.
Yes.
And we've come to find now that in social media land, we've started to take this as reality. Social media is not the real world. You can't convince me that social media should rule my house.
Come on.
When me and my family, that's a real world in here, that my household. But if I try to manage my household by the dictates of social media, that's not reality. That's like in the past, people trying to dictate their lifestyles because of soap opera.
Yep.
That's not real. Or today's, what do they call these reality shows? That's not the real world. Does it have its place of information? Certainly it does. But everybody is talking. So we now have this love-hate affair with the minister and the nation.
Yes.
You love us 1 minute and then hate us the next, across many lines. You love us as long as we're doing and saying what you like. But if we talk about God, we lose some people. If it becomes down to protesting, if you don't see us out there, now we lose a segment of people because we're not moving the way you want us to move. So we have this love-hate relationship as long as the minister's getting on the white man. But as soon as he starts talking about our own self-development, our own sustenance, and us getting rid of our immoral lifestyle, now we lose people. Oh, well, you can't judge me. I got my free thinker. I do what I want. Stop it. But guess what? I close with this, Doc. COVID-19 is showing you and I that our people now are in a place where you miss the nation. See? Where's the nation? Maybe because you miss us, and now God is forcing you to recognize that you have something that you have doubted. You have a man that's worthy and has worked for you and is working for you. And on July 4th, where has he been? He's coming in God's time. See? So this love-hate relationship, it's okay, but guess what? The minister taught us we ain't never stopped loving you, even though you may have fallen in and out of love with us.
Was us right?
Time a certain situation comes up, we are consistent, and God loves those who have been consistent in his way.
And Minister Carlos, I have to say, like I said, I was introduced to the nation again between the ages of 15 and 17, and you all have been extremely consistent, very consistent. I remember back in the 90s, you all took over the projects. I never forget this. You all went down there and you cleaned up the projects. I know it was this big thing going on between the nation and the state. I think the state, and you can correct me if I'm
actually,
yeah, you guys went down there, the brothers went down there, the sisters, and you cleaned up the projects. You cleaned them up, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if they felt like you all were getting too powerful. I don't know what it was, but it was kind of like you were there, you cleaned it up, and then you were told to leave. So I don't know what happened with that.
Well, they didn't like the fact that we have always had a rapport with our people and a connection to our people, regardless of circumstance. Because our method, if you will allow me, sis.
Yes, please.
The thing that, see, you don't know, not you, when I say you, I'm talking to the general audience, don't know much about the founder of the nation. And you just may know generationally a little bit about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You don't know much about Master Fard Muhammad. But without him, there is no Elijah Muhammad.
Mm.
So if you know something of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, good or bad, it's because somebody taught him. See? And well, we don't know much about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but we know his students, though. We know Malcolm X, we know Muhammad Ali, and we know Minister Farrakhan. But guess what? None of them without the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's
And
facts.
guess what? Without Master Fard Muhammad, we wouldn't be having the conversation that we're having right now because of the 90-year chain effect of him coming and teaching the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So saying all of that, that consistency. They don't like the fact that Master Fard Muhammad taught Elijah Muhammad. He said, yeah, I'm giving you your religion, but I don't ever want you disconnecting from your people.
Mm.
See? So the difference with this set of Muslims versus others, no judgment. It's just that our mission and the methodology is different. So we're not coming to you peddling religion and say the only way we're going to help you and deal with you is if you accept Islam and become a Muslim. So when we went to the projects, we wasn't going down there proselytizing religion, but that's what they were afraid of. They were afraid that we were peddling that truth from the minister whom they hated, and as a result, they hated us. And guess what? We were in a contract with them. We had a security business. We had a legal right to operate a legal business here in America, and we entered, the federal government entered into that with us. The Department of Housing, Urban Housing and Development. See? But there were members of Congress, namely Peter King,
Mm.
who hated the minister because of the onslaught of hatred and barbarism from the Jewish, so-called Jewish community. They said, no, if we pay them this money, they're going to buy arms and come against us, and they're fueling the pockets of the minister. See, but to the point, the reason why we were able to work successfully in cleaning up the project and making it decent and safe for our people, and it hasn't stopped now, but because we were connected to them. They knew that despite theological differences, we love them. And that's why we can go in the hood. And the people don't have no problem with the members of the Nation of Islam because it's the approach, it's the methodology, it's outward, it is the unconditional love for our people. And that, as long as that is at the core of what we do, we'll take the insults and the ignorance from our people as we have now done for 90 years.
For 90 years. And so it's you and I are on the same wave. I should have known that. We were on the same wave about this whole social media and how everyone, like you said, Minister Carlos, have become a social media activist
Come on now.
nowadays. And then you have people like yourself and myself, like, have been on the front line for many years.
Mhm.
And so let me ask you this. There were protests in Baltimore and as we stated earlier, around the world. How do you feel about non-Black people participating in these protests, marches, and riots? I know on social media, a lot of people have been praising, non-Blacks for their participation and thanking them for it. But what are your thoughts about that? Do you think that this should have been just something that we should have been at the forefront doing, or do you welcome the help of other people, non-Blacks in particular? What were your thoughts about what you saw on
Yeah.
the media
Well,
regarding non-Blacks participating?
well, let me give you some wisdom and history of the nation that's still in effect right now, because you're talking about protest, and everybody got their view of what a protest is.
Right.
But we know that during the time of the civil rights era, where Dr. King and those early persons that were developing what became the civil rights movement, at that time, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his followers were not striving for integration. And still to this day, one of the most controversial positions of the nation with this love-hate relationship you have with us is our position on separation. That has not changed. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, it is better to teach our people separation than it is to teach them prayer. That you're better to teach them first the rationale of separating from an enemy before teaching you prayer, because our prayers have not been answered in the traditional sense. He says, look at this demon, Dylan Ruth, that went a few years ago down into our people's church down in South Carolina and outright murdered our people in cold blood.
Yes.
Because our people's mentality in prayer is that when that cracker walked in there, they saw Jesus.
Come on.
They saw their concept of Jesus, because in their mind, the white man is God. God is white. Jesus is white. And still to this day, anything of divine nature is white. So they welcomed him in with welcome arms while he sat there and watched and plotted and knew what he came there to do. And they were murdered. Check this. But had that been one of our brothers from the street organization that decided that he was tired and he wanted to seek God, and he came into the church with his rag or his colors on, with his pants hanging down, and maybe his gold fronts in, and he's smelling like the latest perfume called Loud or Sour Diesel. It would have called the police and told that man, get out of here.
Yes, they would have.
Because there's something in our psyche that even though we're trying to be progressive, that the white man's sugar is still sweeter. See? So my point to that is, whites protesting with us is something we got to take a look at. Do you know that for 90 years, we have not let white people into our meetings? Think of this now. That is a protest, especially today. That in 2020, white man can't come to our meet, not at the mosque. See? That's a protest. That's a very strong protest.
Indeed.
And I'm not here to discuss the reasons why, but I'll give you the base of it. You know why they can't come in? Even the well-meaning ones? Because we have a natural tendency to want to relinquish our power, our God-given power, to them. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote that ever since they mixed their blood into ours, we've had a natural leaning towards them. And you're seeing it on the front line, that as when they come among us, we relinquish, we follow them. I saw it as I closed this point the other night in Baltimore, and we thank God for the civil disobedience of our people and the organizers, that we're not here to bust up and tear things down and set things on fire, even though really in truth, we're justified. But that's not the routing. But I don't know if you saw when eventually the police had to say, hey, look, y'all been out here long enough. We're going to clear these streets. And then literally after midnight, it got down to about 12 white people standing in front of the police with 3 blacks. But yet the whites was encouraging those 3 blacks to get in the face of those officers behind those shields. See? Lastly, you come out here protesting, instigating in many senses, as we're seeing around the country. You're the ones looting white people. You're the ones that are sparking up the chaos that results in tear gas and pepper spray and rubber bullets aimed at our people. But guess what? At the end of it, you get bailed out and you can go back to your white privilege.
Come on.
While we still suffer and we have nothing to come back to. So I say, I'm just one of those. I'm quite leery of that. I'm not saying that there aren't well-meaning other ethnic groups that are in solidarity with us. But guess what? That's why the slave master's children, you owe us.
Mm,
by standing up like you are on your social media platforms and with your influence and with your money.
mm.
Because if you want us to really love you, then you would help in the repair of what your forefathers and your fathers and grandmothers have done and still continue to perpetuate.
Mm.
But don't you, black man, relinquish what is rightfully yours as the vanguard of power, influence, and decision making, because now you see those who you want to be in bed with,
Mm.
as if that makes it right. Let me tell you something. Elijah Muhammad and his minister are right on time with this message that we've been saying for 60 and 50 and 90 years, really, but specifically since the 50s, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and those with him have said, we must get up and do something for ourselves
That's right.
or suffer the consequences. So if we're suffering the consequences of police brutality and the lack of having what we think we should have in the community, it is because we have failed to unite, because unity, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, would solve 95% of our problems. And you can't get no better example of fighting for a Black United Front than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Whew. Mr. Carlos, I wish I had one of those effects where someone's talking and you start dropping bombs, you hit the button and it go. Oh my goodness. But you know, in the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. John Henry Clark said, we don't have any friends. That's what he said. He said, black people, he said, we don't have any friends. You don't have any friends. You look to the Native Americans, you look to the Hispanics, you look to the whites. He said, you're going to realize one day that we have no friends. And that's what he said. And that's what I go by. We don't have any friends. So I know a lot of people were happy to see non-blacks participate in the protests and marches and things of that nature. But you know, when I sat back and I looked at it, I know particularly it was this one story that went viral, and you family, you can look it up. It was a group of white women who stood in front of all of the protesters. They formed a line and they locked arms, and they stood in front of the protesters, and they were saying that they wanted to use they know that they're privileged, and they wanted to use their white privilege to protect the front line. And so it was all white women. And so I started thinking back to there's a book out on the market called Her Property by Dr. Stephanie, where she talks about you know, that beast, the female beast. And she said that she's more wicked than her counterpart. And she talked about how typically when we watch slave movies, we think that more white males owned slaves than the females, you know. But she said actually there were more female white slave masters than male white slave masters. And she said, and they were just as brutal as their male counterpart. So I'm looking at my people get happy. They were happy that she was out there with them. And I was just thinking, God, hey, Minister Carlos, you know, we're at a point where we forgot who our open enemy is, you know. And as you stated,
Are you saying that we love Karen?
Yeah, we love her. We love Karen.
And so when we think the nice Karen comes, we're so happy, but that outward where the mask of civility has been lifted, that Karen showed you that you can't even walk in a park without calling the police on us.
Come on. I said, I said, did we forget that? That story just came out last week. Did you forget that? You know, people sharing they were. Come on. I said, come on. You know, so our people, I just looked and I said, our people. But I want to go back to a point that you made earlier when you were talking about how you all aren't, you know, just, you know, pushing religion on our people. This is what I call my Bible, Blueprint for Black Power by Dr. Amos Wilson. And he talks about the nation.
That's a great word.
Yeah, he talks about the nation extensively in his book. And he said that the nation is a model for how we should operate. We should operate as a nation within a nation. And so I want to just read a little excerpt from it. I'm on page 81. And he says that more than a religious institution, the Nation of Islam is a full-fledged Black culture, a nation within a nation, for it includes all of the major institutions which define a people as having a culture, a group identity and name, a religious institution unique to themselves, family and economic institutions, a military or paramilitary establishment, a distinct set of ethics, mores, folkways, and values, distinct modes of dress, distinct culinary and dietary styles, a system of production and resource ownership and development. The nation is patriarchal in leadership and organization, meaning that its males have developed ways and means of intragroup cooperation and organization, which permit them to act on coherent, cohesive, and collective terms. The nation presents a masculine face to the world of outsiders and relates to them on masculine terms of equality and power. So he says, he says that the nation has demonstrated entrepreneurial drive and provided a model for African American economic development, which brings me to my next question, Minister Carlos. Now that, you see people, all over the world. Now they're saying, look, we got to unite. Now, like you said, Minister Carlos, this stuff has been going on for hundreds of years. But now, George Floyd was the spark, and people were saying things like, we need to be buying Black. We need to be supporting Black, banking Black. My question to you is this: how do we keep that momentum up, Minister Carlos? Because typically what I see is that after Trayvon Martin, after Michael Brown, after Sandra Bland, after Alton Sterling and Walter Scott and Philando Castile, and after these things, after these tragedies, that's the spirit. People are like, let's buy Black, let's support Black, let's bank Black. But then it dies off. It dies down. We tend to just, once it's not in the media anymore, we forget about it and we go back into our normal routines. But how do we keep that momentum going, Minister Carlos? So, they've arrested the police officers, and we know that there's going to be a trial. There's going to be a verdict. I don't know. It might be a conviction, may not be a conviction. You never know with this system. And then we just wait, until the next Black body drop, and we repeat the cycle again. So how do we get out of that cycle, and how do we keep this movement or momentum going, Minister Carlos?
That's beautiful. And to our Baba and historian Amos Wilson, listen, he hit it. And because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to show, as is the minister now, with his small group of followers who was attached to the mass. I want you to remember this. See, in our lesson as Nation of Islam members, we're asked, what is the population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America and all over the planet Earth? And we were taught this number at that time was 17 million at the time of the question, with the 2 million Indians, which was showing us our extension of family, that these were original people as well, right? These are non-whites, if you will. Mm-hmm. And that in America, there was 19 million of us. See, but all over the planet Earth, there's 4 billion at that time, 400 million original people, where we outnumber the Caucasian 11-1 at that time. See? Okay, why am I bringing that up? Because Master Fard Muhammad was teaching the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that, yes, I'm giving you a mission specifically for your people where you are. So he said, message to the Black man in America. Well, some said, well, what about our brothers and sisters in Africa? Elijah Muhammad, what about our Caribbean family? And then somebody asked him when he moved down to Mexico, well, what message would you give to them? He said, the same message I'm giving to the Black man in America. So it is a extension out there, but we kind of have to do the concept. Ain't no need of getting on your neighbors if your steps is dirty. See, I got to clean mine first and maybe inspire and motivate. Say, hey, neighbor, man, why don't you clean yours and maybe they're clean down there and we have a clean block. So my point is, we have a concept of nation for the whole. So our people may not be members of the mosque, but every black man, woman, and child in our concept are members of the Nation of Islam, regardless to their ideology, regardless to their religious persuasion, they are members of the nation. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said his teacher taught him, yeah, you can think for the mosque and the followers, and you can even just think for the nation. But now you got to think nation in the sense of all of our people. How do you feed us all? How many slices of bread do you have to have based upon the average of how many slices we eat as a whole, as 22 or 30 million, or now 50 to 60 million, how much wheat cultivation we got to have. He taught the minister to think like that. How much cattle got to be under cultivation. So coming back to it, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad showed us the Muslim farm, the Muslim bakery, the Muslim dry cleaners, the Muslim that and this, as a small microcosm of what we could do as a whole. He wasn't doing it to mock and say, oh, see, the Negro ain't got nothing, but look at us. Yeah, look at us because we're modeling. That's what Barbara Wilson was saying.
Yes. Yes.
See, okay, here's a concept. Do you have to leave your church to have that concept? No. Do you have to leave your organization to have that concept? No. Just take the principle and tailor it to your methodology, tailor it to your cultural expression, as long as that cultural expression is not degrading to who we are. See? So my point to your question, do you know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to instruct us? Go to Message to the Black Man. You should go and get you a copy.
I have a copy on my bookshelf.
I know you got one.
Oh.
That's why when I say you, I'm talking to the audience.
Yes.
Brothers and sisters, he said we must stop having this outright hatred and wanton criticism of everything that is black owned and black operated. He was saying that in the 60s. And here we are, 2020. We still struggling with supporting anything that is black owned and black operated. Because guess what? When we were under segregation.
Mm-hmm.
We had our own black hotels, our own black businesses. They hated that in Tulsa, which we just celebrated, I believe, the either 99th or 100th year anniversary.
Yes.
What happened in Tulsa and burning down our community and what we were doing for self-preservation. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the first law of nature is self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
See? What you look like telling us that we should look out for another ethnicity before we first look out for ourselves? See? You see it in the creation, in the nature of the lower animals. You don't see no cats out there talking about, let us find what we find so we can have some for the dog. And you don't see the dog doing that for the cat. Everybody has a right to self-preservation.
Absolutely.
But as human beings, once we take care of ourselves, are we that ignorant that we wouldn't look out for somebody that is in need? No, God didn't make us that way, but don't put that before the obligation that you have for yourself.
For your own people.
There's a
That's
such
right.
thing, right, of sacrifice, but sacrifice has boundaries to it. See? But can I read something real quick?
Please
now, look,
do.
This is a Muhammad Speaks newspaper from 1965. And since August of 1963, the Muslim program from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was on the back page of then Muhammad Speaks. And since 1979, May, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan established the Final Call newspaper after the first paper that Elijah Muhammad established in the 30s was called the Final Call to Islam. So the minister went back to the root. Our brother Malcolm X started Mr. Muhammad Speaks newspaper, and then eventually it became Muhammad Speaks. But the first paper of the nation in the 30s was called Final Call to Islam, published by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. See? Just like our Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He had a paper. See? So on the back page of every Final Call, that same Muslim program still is there. Look at what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says here in What the Muslims Want. He says, this is the question asked most frequently by both whites and blacks. The answers to this question, I shall state as simply as possible. What is it that y'all Muslims want? And what do you believe? He says, we want freedom. We want a full and complete freedom. We want justice. Look at this now. Equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed, class, or color. See? We want equality of opportunity. We want equal membership in society with the best in civilized society. This is what he's saying we want. And there's more to this. But look at what he says in point number 6. He says, we know the above plan for the solution of the black and white conflict is the best and only answer to the problem between the two people. What he had just stated in terms of separating. That's the best solution. Since we can't get along with you in peace, why don't you let us go for ourselves? What do you keep trying to hold on to us for after displaying the outright bitterness and hatred and atrocity towards us? But you hold us as ransom because you know that the Creator, the God, the Almighty is going to serve justice on you, the justice that we fighting for and asking for in the courts we cannot get. And if we do, it cannot take up for all of the injustices that we've suffered since slavery. So guess what? The justice that we're begging white people for and protesting for, they can't give us. But guess what? God can serve it with a wind, with rain, with hail, with snow, with earthquakes, with COVID-19. He has disrupted. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, even if this beast developed COVID to destroy us, God turned it on him. And so no basketball, no football, no baseball, no sport and play, crushing your economic system. But guess what? God is the God of justice. So if the courts won't give justice to Brother Floyd, Sister Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, and all the others that are gone, then God will give it. And while I'm on that note, what is this? With all of these fights, no conviction, but court settlement.
Yep.
I say, be careful, black man and woman, because Elijah Muhammad said the white man will offer you money, but the thing that he will never give you is guidance. The guidance that you're looking for is from the minister and the other rightly guided leaders of our struggle. But let me read this. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Minister. Go ahead, Minister.
And point number 6, which for the Panther Party, where did they get their program from? Go get their program and hold it next to this program and look at how they took the best of what they could take from the program of the nation and tailor it to their situation. The messenger never said, you stole our program. See, because we are a nation. They're members of the nation, then and now. But look at what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. We want an immediate end to the police brutality and mob attacks against the so-called Negro throughout the United States. We believe that the federal government should intercede to see that the black man and woman tried in white courts receive justice in accordance with the laws of the land, or allow us to build a new nation for ourselves dedicated to freedom, justice, and equality. Look at this now. He says, As long as we are not allowed to establish a state or a territory of our own, we demand not only equal justice under the laws of the United States, but equal employment opportunities now. We do not believe that after 400 years of free or nearly free labor, sweat, blood, and blood, which has helped America become rich and powerful, that so many thousands of Black poor people have to subsist on relief, charity, or live in poor houses. I mean, there's much more to this. Lastly, I want to read from this. He says, we believe our women should be respected and protected as women of other nationalities are respected and protected. He covered it all. Then look at this, Doc. He says, we believe in justice for all, whether in God or not. We believe as others that we are due equal justice as human beings. We do not believe that we are equal with our slave masters in the status of freed slaves. Check this. We recognize and respect American citizens as independent people, and we respect their laws which govern this nation. Here it is. Here's the crux, because I want your listeners to get it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, we believe that the offer of integration is hypocritical and is made by those who are trying to deceive the Black peoples into believing that their 400-year-old open enemies of freedom, justice, and equality are all of a sudden their friends. Furthermore, we believe that such deception is intended to prevent Black people from realizing that the time in history has arrived for separation from the whites of this nation. If the white people are truthful about their professed friendship towards the so-called Negro, they can prove it by dividing up America with their slaves. We do not believe that America will ever be able to furnish enough jobs for her own millions of unemployed, in addition to the jobs for then the 20 million plus Black people as well, or now 50 to 60 million of us. Look at all that wisdom and much more that we didn't cover, meaning we don't have to reinvent nothing. Do you know, Doc? I'm sorry for taking so long, but do you know? Do you know that the beauty of the divine creator that has given us our divine leaders and teachers, specifically in this 400-year plus journey in America, that we have been given, we can name them all. We can go from Frederick Douglass to Harriet Tubman to Nat Turner to Denmark Vesey to Truth, to them all, to Marcus Garvey, as we said, Noble Drew Ali, Dr. King, Malcolm X. We can call it. There's so many. Don't be mad if I missed yours. They are included in the we and the us. Do you know they gave us all the tools? We have all the tools. Our problem is that we will not unite and put the tools to work for Black self. See, that's why I said at the opening, we don't have any differences with Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, though they had differences with each other. We make no distinctions among the prophets of God, and we make no distinctions among Black leadership that work for us from the divine creator. But here's the problem. In 2020, many of you that are critical of other Black organizations or structures or other Black leaders, you have the problem that you got what you read and what you've studied as a philosophy, see? And as a theory. See, you got Garveyan theory and in philosophy, but you failed to put it to practical application.
That's right.
You got Noble Drew Ali. You got Malcolm X. You got even in the nation, some of us have theorized the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching and the minister's teaching and won't put it to work. But guess what my leader said? He said, we love you, minister, We love you, Minister Farrakhan. Look at how we say that. He said, yeah, but you don't love my way.
Mm.
So right now, where's the minister? But you don't love the minister's way, because if the minister's way says, be quiet, man, I'm a grown man. I can say what I want. I'm a grown woman. I'm mad. I'm angry as hell. But the divine side of that human being is saying, God's showing me, the Creator showing me, be quiet. Let's watch. See, when we pray, don't we say some got to watch while others pray?
Yes.
See? So everybody can't just be all emotionally wound up without some watching to see what is the enemy orchestrating. What's some of this behind what's going on? So that when we come out as a united front and not splintered groups that come for a common good cause and end up fighting each other out there on the front line.
Right.
We've seen the effects of that too. And so we won't take no part in that, dear sister. We strive for unity. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's so much. And can I say this? Because we may not be able to get to it. I mean, I have a lot in terms of tangible data. Listen, brothers and sisters, get The Fall of America by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There you go. And sis, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. And maybe we can come back and do a part 2 based upon what I'm getting ready to say.
All right. Yes, sir.
Go right into Fall of America and read the chapter from the Uline Arena address by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in May of 1959. And you would think that he wrote that article or spoke that speech before 10,000 people in 1959 as if it was for us today. Look at, I just want to pull an excerpt from what he said. Look at what he says here from that. For more than 400 years, your pleas for justice, freedom, and equality, a decent place in the sun, have reverberated like thunderclaps sounding in the dark valleys of Lebanon, yet there has been no answer. Never in history of human evil has so many asked for just pittance so loud, so long, and received in return so little, if anything at all. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I am here to tell you that justice is the eventual working out of the will of God as indicated in the fundamental principles of truth. Justice is the antithesis of wrong. The weapon of God will use, this is the weapon God will use to bring judgment upon the world, the purpose and consummation of his coming. Check this. He says, and this is so important, sis, our daughters and wives are lynched before our eyes. The government will not put a stop to it. They will allow the lynchers to lynch you and me if we are charged with an attempt to rape one of them. The lynchers live right next door, down the street, up the alley, yet they are not brought to justice. All of this grief you and I must suffer. All these burdens we must bear. It is beyond comprehension that the American government, mistress of the seas, lord of the air, conqueror of outer space, squire of the land, and prowler of the deep bottoms of the ocean, is unable to defend us from the assault, rape, and murder on the streets of these concrete jungles. What sane man can deny that it is now time that you and I take counsel among ourselves to end the finding justice for ourselves? If we cannot accept these injustices, we are nothing but cowards. If we continue to accept these injustices, Messenger Muhammad says, we are nothing but cowards. If we be cowards, then we ought to go home and kill our wives and then commit suicide. Let me finish this and put it in context. We killed the devil in Germany. He's talking about going to war for them. We killed his brothers for him. We killed our own brothers for him. Yet we are without justice. We have nothing. Our sons and daughters are lynched, kicked, beaten, hung up in the sun, drowned in the river, in ponds and lakes. Their bodies are found in the street, on the highway, in the bushes, killed by the very people whom they have slaved their lives out to give comfort to. That's the context. He's not telling you just to go kill your wife and commit. He's saying that if we're not bold enough after begging for justice and not receiving it to go and get it for ourselves, then that we're really better off. All of that is in there. Lastly, he says, I am your brother. First, he says, this thing has come to a point of explosion. Think about what's going on. He says, I am your brother. The minister's saying these same words now. I am your brother. Your hurt is my hurt. It does not make any difference with me what religion you are, as long as you are a black man or a member of the darker people. You and I are brothers. Your hurt is my hurt. Lastly, he says, on the point of unity, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, we must unite at all costs. Once united, we must stand fully packed as a wall against injustice. If your brother does not want to unite with you, look at the remedy, look at the solution, then you must teach him, cajole him, urge him, and persuade him. Gave 4 points. By all methods available until he realizes that he too must give his all on the altar of justice. But what if 10 million of us, look at this, at that time, what if 10 million of us died in the process? Messenger Muhammad says the remaining 7 million or more of us will enjoy freedom, justice, and equality. What if 25 to 30 million of us die in the process today? Then the remaining 25 to 30 million will go on to enjoy freedom, justice, and equality. That's Elijah Muhammad. That's Farrakhan. Those are tools. No matter what religion you are you willing to use those tools to unite with your brothers and sisters across religious lines, across different ideology lines and different philosophies? Because Elijah Muhammad said our unity is more powerful than a nuclear bomb.
And then
Sure, come on now.
Look, I was laughing because you said, I said, I have the messages to the black man. You said, I know you have it. I know you have it. So yeah. family, get these teachings. The Fall of America by Elijah Muhammad, Message to the Black Man by Elijah Muhammad. I also have right here with me, Minister Carlos, A Torchlight for America by Minister Louis Farrakhan. I have it right here.
Look at how God working. Look at what the next panel was to read. It's from the Torchlight for America by the minister. But we'll go on. But this right here, because the minister gives a remedy on page 41 of Torchlight for America called America on the Brink of Anarchy.
I'm looking at it. Let's go, minister.
Look at what he says here. He says, without an advocate for the poor, without a new state of mind in America, and then the minister told us how to read this book. You could put Baltimore there. You could put your state where America is. It's interchangeable. He says, without a new state of mind, let's keep it on Baltimore. America, Baltimore, the country, the city lies on the brink of anarchy. Anarchy is the complete absence of government. It's a condition of political disorder, violence, and lawlessness in the society. Look at the news, people. Look at the orange man over there. We saw signs of it in Los Angeles after the Rodney King verdict. That was in 1992. Anarchy may await America due to the daily injustices suffered by the people. Minister Farrakhan says there really can be no peace without justice. There can be no justice without truth. And there can be no truth unless someone rises up to tell you the truth. The Nation of Islam can be of assistance. We desire to reason with the political and economic leadership with the hope of formulating a cooperative effort for the benefit of us all. We want a new relationship in which we can work together for the good of the whole. However, the desire of the wicked is to harm me, and they want to harm the minister now, and to destroy the idea that I carry so that Black people and all who would listen cannot and will not make the type of progress that time demands. He closes with this. There's no different from the desire of the wicked to destroy Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Denmark Vesey, and all of those who have stood on behalf of the poor. It appears there is a genocidal plan against Black people. And then he goes on, he lays it out. He lays it out. We got the tools, Doc. We got all we need from the great worthies then and now to go for self, to build a nation for our own selves.
And we did it. And like you said, Minister, we had the tools. And when we did apply the tools, and I'm going back to Blueprint for Black Power, on page 581, there's a section entitled The Economics of the Nation of Islam. And he says that the Nation of Islam, while under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and now under the now under that of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, is a remarkable case in point. Muhammad's was a nation indeed, as noted by Emerge magazine. It says Elijah, he says, preached mythology, but rooted himself in solid ground. His motto was do for self, and he did just that. He ruled over 76 temples nationwide and 50,000 to 100,000 people. His nation owned 15,000 acres of farmland, a newspaper with a circulation of 500,000, several aircraft, a fish import business, restaurants, bakeries, and supermarkets, a fire eater with a whispery voice, Muhammad redeemed the disenfranchised in the ghetto, infusing them with pride. And he ends by saying the nation functioned as a nation with a national capital, Chicago, a head of state, Elijah Muhammad, a national hierarchical administration, a binding religion, and a political ideology, a set of distinct family, educational, economic, commercial, religious, martial, informational, and social institution. Through these unified, and that was the key word you said, Minister Carlos, unified. Through these unified and allied institutions, the nation forged a presence in the Black community, the United States, and the world, one phenomenal given in its rather small membership compared 100,000 Black Muslims with the 10 million Black Baptists, for example. It says by forging a unifying religious and ethnic identity and acting on these bases, the nation was able to generate enough wealth to fund the building of its temples, the education of its children, the establishment of businesses and industries of various types. Okay, and I'm gonna close. It says it demonstrated in concrete and mortar in its transformation of antisocial and criminal persons, the effectiveness of its doctrines. This permitted it to ultimately win the admiration and support of many Black non-Muslims and permitted its best known spokespersons, it says Malcolm X and Louis Farrakhan, to gain great popular acclaim in the African-American community and to wield, conservatively speaking, enormous influence in that community as well. Its economic growth and success are as responsible for this outcome, no less than it is unadulterated, forthright Black nationalism. So Baba goes in, and I mean, he goes in on the nation. And like you said, Mr. Carlos, if we apply, like you said, we have the tools, and if we apply it, look at what we did achieve when we applied it. 15,000 acres of farmland, bakeries, restaurants. I mean, when I read this, I was blown away, Mr. Carlos. I mean, I was absolutely blown away. So like you said, we have the tools, we have the blueprint, We just had to put these tools to use. So what do you think, and in closing, because I know you and I, Minister Carlos, you and I, we're history
We'll go
buffs.
all night.
Yeah, we'll go all night. And so what do you think, I guess, how do we keep this momentum going? The right now, people, emotions are high. People say that they want to get involved. How do they get involved? What is your advice? People that genuinely say, okay, I'm fed up. I see it on social media, but I really want to get involved in the day-to-day activism. How do they get involved?
Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been a unifier and is a unifier. He's proven that. That's what his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, taught him, taught Malcolm X, and that teaching still continues today. What do we mean by unified? Do you know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote Dr. King in 1966 and was asking Dr. King to join him in the formation of a united Black
Mm.
see? And I think we just got word that we lost our dear brother, Conrad Worrell, from Cobra. And that brother has been fighting for a united Black front as well as on reparations front for a very long time. And may God forever be pleased with him. But Dr. Worrell always talked about how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was very clear about a Black united front. And the minister has been the same way. That's why you've seen the minister has never worked against the nationalist community.
Never.
Even if there are differences in our theology or ideologies, that's the human effort. But there are some that claim to be real nationalists that are divisive. And there are those that take the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and step out from the model of the minister and try to use Elijah Muhammad's teachings in a divisive way, which they are not designed to, right? We got all kind of people among us.
Absolutely.
But guess what? The leadership, the minister has never worked against Black organizations. Matter of fact, he's always come to the aid. And if they had something negative to say, the minister taught brothers like me who might get in my feelings how to take that. Because he's thinking for the whole.
Right.
He ain't focusing on the little ignorance and the little differences. He's thinking, okay, let me look at the better of the person. You see what I'm saying? Or let me look at the whole because it's for the whole. Look at how he held his view on Barack Obama after Hillary Clinton brought up in that debate that he had met with the minister on a national, international stage. She said, but what about your relationship with Minister Farrakhan? The minister didn't come at Barack Obama when he had to kind of dance with that. And she called for a condemnation of the minister, and he did it. The minister didn't come out against Barack Obama. He kept his mouth. Why? Because the minister was thinking for the whole. Wasn't thinking about an ego and being bruised. So you said, how do we keep the momentum? First, we got to get over our ego. We got to put our differences to the side and look at the common goal. I go right back to what I just read. That sentence. Look at what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying in 1959. See, 61 years ago. He says, if your brother does not want to unite with you, now he's giving us remedy, then you must teach him. How do we build on that momentum? Teaching.
Teaching.
Sound teaching. He said, then cajole him. Might have to hug him. I know we're in the age of social distancing, but all right, look, I know you mad, right? That's the beauty of the Black woman. When you grown a little, see, ain't nothing to a husband and know he got a good wife that when he ain't doing too well, he been beat up in this world and come home from work, and a good woman know how to console and cajole him and to keep him going, to
That's
keep
right.
him motivated. Right. See, we got to motivate each other. Then he says, urge him.
Urge him.
Because after you cajole him, right, then you might have to, now you got to push him. Look, hey, enough of that damn crying and whimpering. I understand. I'm crying too, but put them tears away. We got to go. So now he's saying urge. Then he said persuade him, right? He says, by all methods, now. Now we got to use every method there is available until he realizes that he too must give his all on the altar of justice. See, that's how we keep the momentum. We got to give it our all, right? That failure is not an option. Okay, we don't agree with your philosophy. All right, I got to come another way now. All right, we ain't going to deal with philosophy. I don't like your religion. Okay, fine. But what about this?
Right.
We got to do all that we can do, because at the end of the day, we Black. Going back to those protests, hey, see, we can't wipe our Blackness off.
Mm-mm.
And we know that Brother Floyd and all the others, the reality was that officer hates Black people. He hates Black skin, Black features. And that hatred, these fiery serpents, white people, angry white people, these are the people that love Trump. And there are millions of them
Absolutely.
that feel that way.
Absolutely.
So don't get all happy-go-lucky over a few hundred or thousand of them that feel sympathetic and maybe feel our pain, because there are millions of them that don't and are like rabid dogs trying to bite their children now back and repoison them with that white supremacist attitude. And listen, as I close this point, we are fighting in 2020 against Black inferiority complex still.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes,
So
we
not
are.
only are we fighting against white supremacy, we're fighting against Black inferiority, and we're fighting against low self-esteem. So don't tell me nothing about where we at, where the nation at. The minister is giving you his all. And remember the thing about mercy. Justice or else. The or else is God.
Mm.
And like the honorable minister said, you know, Doc, you came up under the or else.
Mm-hmm.
You better clean up that room. Or
else.
And then you became a mommy.
Mm-hmm.
And if I ask your sons, now that they're grown, and they still under the or else, right?
That's right. That's right.
They still under the or else. And when you mean, they know, my children know the or else.
Yes, absolutely.
So you don't want to play with the or else. But some, I was hard-headed. I had a whole lot of or else's.
Me too.
And I paid the price.
Me too.
With shoes, whips, the tree limbs, frying pans.
Yes.
God,
the black leather belt, the black thin leather belt.
Right. So, but the or else, God got the or else. See? So don't think that we gotta do something destructive. Matter of fact, the minister told me to tell the street organizations after the Freddie Gray uprising, he said, go tell the gang members to take their money and buy up all that abandoned property in the neighborhoods that they helped destroy.
Mm.
He says, and then employ the brothers in the street organization to get them in trade schools to fix those properties up for grandma and them, open up a pharmacy, open up stores. He said, because when we do it that way, if there's an uprising, you ain't never got to worry about us burning down what we built up for ourselves.
Absolutely.
We're going to protect it at all costs. So that's how we keep the momentum going. The momentum has to be building our own reality, pooling our resources and building our own reality. And when you got an army in the spirit of the FOI, the MGT, the Panther Party, and all of the great others that stand up like that, then if it get real bad out here, our communities will be safe, because ain't nobody, you ain't coming here with that. We don't need the National Guard. And if anybody inside our precincts, the hood, want to act up, we got our own manner of justice and to deal with that. But guess what? Ain't nobody white coming in our community tearing it up and going to continue to do the things that you've been doing. Why? Because we built it for ourselves. So I just thank you, sis, for your work and your consistency and going beyond the norm. those beautiful DVDs and the animation of Meltrek. See, all of that is a modernization reaching out people, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, by any method available.
Mm.
See, because that helps on one level. And what we have from the great word is continue to work for us on those levels. All the levels got to be working. So I thank God for you and your children. And may God protect and preserve you and them and grant you all long, long life. Because without allies like yourself and others, Brother Jabari and many, many others, Pastor Heber Brown, that's my brother. He's
Yes.
working in farming right now. You don't see Pastor Heber waiting for a handout. He's gone to the earth. So ask him what will happen if famine strikes, where you can't go to your supermarket that ain't really yours.
Come on.
With all that revolutionary talk, you still going to the white man's store. Stop it. See? But
Minister,
Pastor,
ooh, I'm over
but
here like, ooh.
see, Pastor is teaching us, I'm going to the earth. And when famine hit, hey, my congregation to eat. And as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I don't care how bad it get out here. As far as for being my followers, we going to eat. And that's not in euphoria. We'll eat. That's not a mystery God teaching. We'll eat even if we got to grow on our porches and back porches now. We can grow in a pot. I ain't talking about that pot.
Come on.
I'm talking about a pot to grow. Not no damn weed.
That's right.
But to grow you some vegetables and grow you some real herbs that you could make your kitchen and your household, your pharmacy, to protect yourself against COVID and any of these other things that are coming down. See, we so fired up. We'll keep on going, sis.
I know. I look, and then you just said something because and I'm gonna send you a link to the video. I responded to it on my own platform. I was actually, I would say verbally attacked. I'll let you be the judge of that. But there was some folks on social media talking all this pro-black stuff and revolutionary stuff and anti-government stuff, and so I ended up calling in. And I made this comment, Minister. I said, and like I said, I'll shoot you the link so you can hear it verbatim. But I said, I called into the show and I said, I said to some level, because they were talking all this we anti-government, we pro-black, we revolutionary. And I called in and I said, well, I hear what you're saying. I said, but, we're not as pro-black and revolutionary as we think we are. I said, and to some degree, we all have a level of trust in the government. I said, to some extent. And they said, what? We don't trust the government. We don't do this. We. And I said, well, brother, I said, where do you put your money? Where's your money going? Do you bank? Oh yeah, I put my money in the bank. I said, oh. I said, do you grow your own food or do you shop at the supermarket? Oh, I shop at the supermarket. I said, I said, do your children attend the public school? Are they in the public school system? I said, or are you homeschooling or did you build a school? Oh no, they go to school. Okay. So we're not as rah, and we're not as revolutionary and pro, and I'm not, and this is no diss, but I was trying to get them to see something, Minister. That I was trying to get them to see that if we were really as anti-government as we say we are, and as pro-black and revolution as we say we are, we would be building institutions, we would be banking black, we would be buying black, we would be growing our own food, we would be educating our own babies, So I was trying to get them to see that, and Minister Carlos, I probably shouldn't send you the clip. Because when I hung up, I was called all kinds of, dumb. I was dumb. I was, I can't believe her being a student of history. That was just weak talking points. The sister don't know. I mean, they just totally degraded me. It was bad, Minister.
Let me say this. You know why? Because information and knowledge that is good. Look at all of this that we just went over tonight, just from Baba Wilson and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan. But guess what? You put that pure, beautiful word in a filthy vessel. And filthy vessel here means a filthy mind,
Mm.
an
Mm.
immoral, non-spiritual person. And you can talk all that rah-rah shishkumbab all you want.
Mm.
You don't have no proper respect for the black woman who is the mother of civilization. See? So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his minister didn't give us religion. We had Christianity. We had white Christianity. But we were still abusers of ourselves and our women.
Mm.
See? So he had to clean our morals up as he was cleaning our minds up. So that's why they could talk all that and then degrade you as a black woman when every man, black man or whatever, came through the womb of a woman.
Mm.
But remember, white people have taught and trained us well in
Yes,
our
they
ignorance
have. Yes, they have.
that a dog is man's best friend,
Mm.
not God, a dog.
Mm.
So they got more reverence for the dog to give Mike Vick years in jail. But yet we tiptoeing and gotta wait to see the outcome and whether or not justice is finally going to be served in this new case.
Mm.
So, but guess what? If they didn't attack you, sister, it meant that you wasn't saying or doing nothing that was worthwhile. And to those, I'll add another one. You should have asked them, what do you wipe your behind with? Since toilet paper has become scarce.
Mm.
You so revolutionary, you don't even produce a roll of toilet paper.
Mm.
So wipe yourself with. And under COVID, the toilet paper disappeared. Where's your black revolutionary toilet paper company that we can come support? And even if you had one, it's not without negotiating with other businesses that are owned by other ethnicities that you work in interstate trade and commerce. That is all a part of how a nation deals with a nation. And so, yeah, we would rather do business with black all the time, but we may have to do business with our Asian brothers and sisters when we're a proper nation. You see, Governor Hogan had to get them test kits from South Korea
Sure did.
because
Sure
the
did.
federal government couldn't give him none. His own government couldn't supply it. See? So it's so much to it, but I would ask something of you.
Yes, sir.
I would love to come back
Please
and let's
do.
talk about the history of the nation's economic foundation.
That's beautiful.
And then and on that one, I'll be able to bring in the images while we're talking and show us that history. But also, we didn't get a chance to cover, but I'll just leave it as a closing note.
Okay.
The Nation of Islam is no stranger to police brutality because our inception, almost from the very beginning, we was into it with the police. When we tried to establish, and we did, because it's still in effect now, 80 years plus years later, the establishment of our school, Muhammad University of Islam, free and independent, black owned, black operated. Do you know the police came and kicked our doors in, arrested our teachers, put our children in foster care in 1934? Did we sit down and lay down? We went down to the courthouse and demanded the release of our followers, and a mob of police came out from the precinct, and a brawl happened. We got the pictures of it. And they wrote in Time magazine in 1934, the first time that we were even recognized in a national publication under the title University of Islam, that 13 of us went to jail. And 41 of them went to the hospital. And we got the pictures of us, the FOI, in the courtroom making prayer instead of swearing on the Bible. You want to talk about a protest? We've been protested. Our sisters, not did the brothers go to jail, the sisters fought them. And we got their mugshots standing there with their dignified selves on a police lineup. And guess what? When we got out, we went right back to teaching our own children. And then they arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1935 on charges of contributing to the delinquency of minors, for taking our children out of the white schools for our own school. And when they let him out, he went back and made sure we came right back out of the white people's school. So don't tell us nothing about Black independent education. If you got a Black independent anything, you owe Marcus Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I want to come back and talk about that. In April of '62, they attacked our mosque, the Los Angeles Police Department, and they killed our secretary, Ronald T.X. Stokes, shot him in cold blood, and shot others and wounded, and put one of our brothers in a wheelchair to the day that he died. And in April of 1972, they came on a bogus charge and attacked our mosque, then under Minister Farrakhan's leadership, on behalf of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in New York. And we fought them, and one of their officers was so scared of the fearlessness of the brothers. While you attacked us while our school was in session with our children there, and we fought you, and one of their officers shot himself cold in the head because he couldn't understand. And they charged us with murdering the police. But guess what? Harlem showed out. I got the film footage. I got the pictures that tens of thousands came because they loved Minister Farrakhan, and they tore Harlem up, demanded that until we see the minister is safe, we'll tear Harlem up. And the minister had to come out on the top of a police car and tell Black people to go home, and he ordered all white officers out of Harlem. Elijah Muhammad ain't never been weak, and none of his followers had never been weak. So don't take what appears to be silence as weakness. On July 4th, you settle down, and don't you be out there lighting no damn fireworks, celebrating their independence when God came on the same day to give us our Black independence. You find your place to your smartphone, your internet, and you tune in to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's message and warning to the government of America, and you take those tools and move with the momentum that you may already be into, because you can either accept it and live, or reject it and die when you really don't have to. So I thank you, sister. But I would love to come back and we deal with that history and how it is relevant to this time.
Absolutely, Minister Carlos Muhammad. I would love for you to come back and talk about that. That was history just in that brief moment, listening to you. That's a lot of history that we were never taught. We don't know about. You went all the way back to the 1930s and brought it up to the 60s and 70s. And this is history that I never heard of. And I consider myself a student of history, but I never heard of this history. And I can honestly say, every time I speak to you, I always, because you're a history buff, and so I always learn some history whenever I have a conversation with you. So I definitely want you to come back, Minister Carlos, to talk about that history. I want to thank you, Minister Carlos, for taking time out to talk to me and to speak with my listeners. Time is precious. Time is the most precious thing, or the most valuable thing that we have. And so I thank you for your time. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your energy. I thank you for your wisdom. I thank you for all of the work that you've been putting in. You've been on the battlefield for decades, Minister Carlos, and I thank you and I appreciate you. Baltimore appreciates you, and we love you. So thank you so much, Minister. Thank you so much, Minister Carlos, for coming on. If people want to reach you or contact you, how can they get in touch with you, Minister Carlos?
Well, of course, right now we're using the best of intelligence. So for all of those that know, our mosque is located at 3306 Garrison Boulevard, right off of Liberty Heights. But we, though they're lifting up some of the restrictions with gatherings, we're using the best of intelligence and not having our meetings at the mosque right now. But for those that want to keep up with the nation's teachings, you can go to NOI.org. like nationofislam.org, but NOI.org. You can also go to finalcall.com. We have not we haven't printed the hard paper,
Right.
for national distribution because of COVID, but you can subscribe to the digital edition. The paper still comes out as every week, 40 plus pages every week. But soon we'll be back in the streets with the paper when it's proper to do so, and we want to use the best of precautions. And personally, if you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter at Carlos Muhammad One, the number one, Carlos Muhammad One on Twitter. And on Instagram, you can get your history lessons. Just scroll, 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 because we are on the NOI archive, NOI archives on Instagram. But also tune in every Sunday on WEAA 88.9 FM. And if you're listening throughout the country, you can go to WEAA.org. It is Morgan State Radio in Baltimore. We come on every Sunday, 7 p.m. East Coast time, every Sunday with the Final Call News Hour featuring the life-giving, life-saving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his minister Farrakhan.
Beautiful, Minister Carlos. Beautiful, beautiful. So I guess we'll talk offline about another time when you're coming on, and I'll make sure that I'll announce that to my listeners. So we're going to go ahead and close out. Thank you again for coming on, and I want to say assalamu alaikum to you, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much, and God bless, and give your sons my love and my greeting.
Will do, Minister Carlos. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace and love.
Peace.